the ancient Greek explained how we would never get sick. They had a method of going to the therapeutic centers, therapeuteria, and there were many in Greece and the Greek islands and the mainland. Even Epidaurus, where the theater was, the ancient theater of Epidaurus, was a therapeutic center. People would go there for fasting, confession, bathing, listening to music, watching art, and whenever they saw art, they would always be accompanied by musical instruments. So you would watch art as you were hearing music, and they would also have theater, their daily theater. One was a tragedy, having to do with the everyday problems of the people, and that means that it was a psychological way to sort of see yourself in the actors as they were playing out their problems and how they would face them and what they would do about them, and also they would express their feelings. And the tragedy would be followed by a comedy. You were obliged to see both, the tragedy followed by a comedy. Otherwise, if you only saw the tragedy, you'd leave feeling down. But it was followed by a comedy so that you would laugh. Basically, it was the same types of problems you had in the tragedy, but you were forced to laugh at them. It was a comedy. So Homer says, he explains that how we never get sick. First of all, he says, he explains various words, algea and ayela. They sound the same. Algea means suffering and sorrows. Ayela means exclamation of admiration. Oh, the suffering of sorrow, and to laugh, or not laughing. What is better than laughter, especially when you're stressed, he says. So Homer explains to us that there is nothing so serious in our simple life that we should distress ourselves with. And this was his truth. And you have to see the big picture of your existence, and then you'll understand. Another picture of your daily needs, created by your senses and by the demands of the ego, of the individual, in a highly consumerist, barbaric, and hypocritical society, is wrong. You have to live simply and honestly and wisely, and you will have a happy life without diseases and sufferings of any kind. And don't forget to laugh at things, at all materialistic things. His laughter and happiness, and just forget, like forgive and forget. And again, the ancient therapeutic centers were a place where you would fast, have an introverted look at yourself, and confess. You also had to confess. Get the things out, get the dirt out. Now, is there a self-healing mechanism for humans? And the answer is yes. And what is it called? We've called it the immune system. And your left brain, daily brain, proved by experiments, ignores the existence of the other right brain, the other lobe of the brain, and its abilities. And most people aren't aware of the existence of their superior self. And despite the clear evidence that something is going on inside their body and their skull, that they themselves have no reason, no involvement, so while they understand that complex processes take place in their body and their brain 24 hours a day, they refuse to make the slightest mental effort to search in depth about who is responsible for all that's going on with their lives. Now, just the inflated ego forbids us to see with a clear mind the non-negotiable sad truth that is that in this situation we're nothing but expendable biological material. Over time, each of us has been shown the existence of a factor in the human body capable of the worst and the best. We have given it various names such as unconscious, subconscious, faith, will of God, etc. And our doctors have called it an immune system and stubbornly refused to open the next door that leads to our truth and salvation. And this factor, regardless of what it's called, is responsible for the phenomenon of self-treatment, self-healing, self-submission, as well as for the phenomenon called placebo effect. Homer, the ancient Greek, reveals to us through the Odyssey that he wrote that this factor is none other than the Greek double life dwarf helix, unconscious that is resident located in our brain cells of the right lobe. The unconscious gives us a command for good or evil. The immune system just runs. And people, and even more so today's human doctors, refuse to take their one step further and accept that the immune system, which they have detected in the human body, receives instructions from the mechanism responsible for the smooth or not operation of the closed system called the human body. And once this is understood by our scientists, we will have taken the next step in our evolutionary path to immortality. That is, when we give flesh and bones to what is within us and determines our life and death. And from the name unconscious, we give it the one that really suits him, that is the Apollonial light. I once asked a doctor, who gives a doctor the small-scale molecular command in the virus to attack me? Who gives my immune system the command to react against the invader or not? And what could be the reasons for this reaction or not? And I never got an answer. Probably realized it had to do with a disturbed person. The doctor must have thought it was a disturbed person talking to him, asking him these questions. The fact that makes the difference is the lifestyle of each of us and the controller within us, quote unquote. You live simply, wisely, honestly, and you never get sick. You live selfishly, dishonestly, and arrogantly, insulting at every step, and you and your immediate relatives will suffer. Anagrammatize therapists help us understand where he is and what he's called. Therapondes, followers, servants, allegorically the human genome. And erthoapondes, servants who move and at the same time are invisible. These are Greek words that he has here, of course, and he's describing them. And now the number 7, he says, has been considered a lucky number by a number of peoples and societies since the ancient world and even modern world for example, 7 years. It's also important that our creators made sure to put it in our daily lives as a lucky number. And he goes on to say, we have 7, the chemical compounds of the messenger genome, 6 amino acids and 1 stop. We have 7 days of the week, 6 days to work and 1 to rest. God made the world in 6 days and rested on the 7th. 7 strings of the guitar of Apollo. 7 vespers. 7 gates of Thebes. 7 colors of the rainbow. The book of Revelation of John, 7 churches, 7 stars, 7 spirits of the gods, the 7 seals, the 7 trumpets, the 7 lightning bolts, 7 heads, 7 destructions, 7 cups, 7 kings. Homer explains that all the commandments for the good, bad functioning of our body come from the nucleus of our brain cells of the right lobe. That's where all the decisions that affect every human body are made, whether for good or for bad, he says, in the sense that we always give into the words. Our intangible self controls the mind with which the driver communicates with the car, or as a programmer communicates with the computer. The spiritual presence of man, the ghost in the machine, exposes a suspicion of material influence on the brain, so much so that it encourages certain neurons to be activated and yet to remain silent. 20,000 genes are responsible for what happens to us in our daily lives, good or bad. That's why they were placed in our life dwarf helix. The information is not yet known to our scientists, but very soon I want to believe that it will happen. Medical science has just begun to understand the ways in which the mind affects the body. So what is it that affects the God in the core of our own cells to make the decisions about our health? Homer proves that it is the way we manage the gift of life that our Creator has given us. How do we manage our lives? In other words, our behavior towards ourselves and others around us, with whom we are a single whole. And the inhabitants of the planet, and for example, the heroes of the country of Ithaca, where Ulysses was from, one of the islands of Greece, towards the Ionian Sea, towards Italy. The inhabitants of Ithaca were a single whole for the galaxy, and much more the inhabitants of the geographical area called Greece, or even more the members of a family. So the dilemma for today's man is an arrogant, selfish life with comforts, money, and profits, with a predetermined catastrophic present and future, humiliation and global continuous research to discover the gene of immortality and the redemption of the planet, question mark, question mark, question mark. You decide. When we talk about health, we often hear about hereditary diseases. Yes, there are such diseases. The detail that interests us here is the reason they do not always manifest. So what does Homer have to say about this? The rationale remains the same. Whatever diseases you inherited from your ancestors exist in your genetic molecule. Activating them or not is decided at the molecular level by your supreme self and has to do with the way of life you experience. By living simply, honestly, and wisely, without insults, you have absolutely nothing to fear. Whatever your ancestors inherited from you, that is the truth of the matter. Whatever that is you inherited from your ancestors. That's the truth of the matter. So the least we can say is pay attention to your behavior. Homer also explained, again, this is according to Homer, okay? Now, Homer also explains that the information about the discovery of the gene for immortality was already in our genetic code, and the way in which this information is obtained is also known. There are also found in the Homeric texts, since the two have already been proven, they contain the same information. The solution is one for absolute health. Live your life simply, honestly, with wisdom. It's the process by which we select, recruit, organize, and recognize environmental stimuli in order to connect them with meaning and significance. When we see a flowering tree, we receive electromagnetic waves of different frequencies. Are these waves visible? Not in our left daily mind, but yes to the God within us. What we perceive is a consequence of structure and processes of our brain, of our dual existence, our sensitivity. The perception of a feeling in colors and temperatures, smells, sounds, and this I've just translated to you from an article in Greek. It's from the book of V.I. Likiardopoulos, The Code of the Greek Immortals, and it's a subject from the epilogue by him and from the Apocalypse of John as well. I'll leave links below for you for this. Please leave your comments. What do you think? It's mind over body, basically. And it's also not far from what our Lord Jesus Christ told us, to cleanse ourselves and to your own self be true. He said, know yourself and examine yourself and clean yourself. And of course, the Holy Confession is a miraculous sacrament. Miraculous sacrament. That's how I was healed. I went for my first confession when I was 42 years old, and the doctors didn't know what was wrong with me. I was spending so much money and time, and I thought I was going to die. Anyway, yes, it's the human body is just a miracle the way it works, and we have a soul. It's this is what encompasses our it's a covering for our soul, is our body. And the soul is, of course, meant to be connected to God. And let's not forget that we are connected, and speak to Him and ask, and it will be given. So please leave your comments. And I think this is fascinating. The philosophy of life, and reading these articles, I think, reminds us that, especially in this day and age, and also before Easter, celebrating Easter, it's time to reflect. And now that most of the world has time to reflect with the situation that we're in isolation and quiet. It's time for us to perhaps reflect how this is a chance to change our lives for the better and be the salt of the earth and balm for those who are wounded and traumatized, and just a light for the world. Anyway, God bless you. Please leave your comments. Thank you so much. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.